When great leadership seems in such short supply, can an African experiment championed by the legendary Archbishop Desmond Tutu offer any hope?
It is believed that you are people who can make a difference.
We share the same dream, and those who will come after us will also share that dream.
25 remarkable people promise to dedicate their talents to transforming the continent. Over the course of 5 months, they'll undergo intensive coaching in South Africa and the UK and have to show the results of their leadership on the ground.
Daddy, give me the victor.
It's uniquely designed to provoke,
I can't stand anymore listening to all this.
test,
We don't have to be friends to work together.
Okay. Disgusting, yeah. And what else?
unite,
I find him very special. He's special.
and empower them.
We can influence which road our nations go.
Power to the people.
My mind's racing with all sorts of dangerous thoughts.
I feel so challenged and motivated to go and start changing the world.
But reaching for great heights will mean addressing taboos and facing their innermost conflicts.
I can do this.
Is it okay for me to put my life on the line when I have the responsibility of these children?
For some, it's an experience that will alter their sense of direction in life. Among them, will we find Africa's leaders of tomorrow? These are Tutu's children.
Everyone has a revolutionary part in his heart. What I want to get out of this experience is a family that will stay with me till the rest of my life. I strongly dislike boredom. I strongly dislike people who do not do anything, people who are passive. Maybe I have, I don't want to say the talent or the gift, but I feel I can contribute in making them realize that there is so much good in themselves and that they can bring so much to the world. I don't see myself as this big person you're talking about. I didn't expect this interview to be like this.
I'm angry.
I respect other people's opinion, but it doesn't mean that, my opinion will change. You really have to convince me. Actually, very difficult to convince. I want to see Africa change in my lifetime, and I think there is a time for debate, but there is definitely more time that should be allocated to getting things done. I'm trying to not be blinded sometimes by what I want to achieve or think I have to achieve. And I think that's why meditating is also important, because there's also other things in life.
2 or 3 meetings with guys in government.
I'm most passionate about justice and fairness. I do worry about what would happen if I were to actually be given an opportunity or a position of power. Will I become consumed by that position and forget who I am, where I come from? Every corner I turn, I believe there will always be someone to remind me of what I stood for, in my younger years of idealism.
I'm going to get to the point, boys.
My wife, if she doesn't actually hit me with something over the head, she'll always be there to remind me and to steer me down that path.
I throw a lot of ideas into the mix. I like to provoke change. I am ambitious. I am hyperactive. So when people work with me, they typically get exhausted. Okay, so now I'm a kid in a school. To many of my business mates, I appear pretty socialist. To many of the communities I work with, I look like a very strong capitalist. And I like the fact that I can be viewed as both. Tell me someone who would say no to this proposition. But I really dislike being given a label. I'd almost be coy to call myself a leader, right? Because what I aspire to do is actually much more to be a good citizen. And through that, we'll achieve something much greater.
Tutu's children are about to leave Oxford for their final 3 days of leadership coaching in London. It's been 5 long months since they first pledged an oath to Archbishop Desmond Tutu to serve the needs of their countries. In Cape Town and Oxford, they've been pushed to examine how they lead. What new solutions they have to Africa's problems, and had to face some of their demons.
I've got no idea about Africa. Zero. Which is scary.
Now London awaits and promises to be no less demanding, with a pressured group task, appointments in the city, and a tour of the House of Lords. Before leaving Oxford, Amy, now a managing director, walks down memory lane, back to where she suspects her journey as an African leader first began.
I'm from Nigeria.
How are
I'm from
you?
Lagos. This is my second time in seeing you. I saw you at the Oxford Union, I think towards the end of the 80s.
When the group met Archbishop Tutu in Cape Town, Amy, typically one of the most serious and reserved leaders, suddenly broke down in tears.
I just wanted to thank you because it really was the beginning of me regaining my pride as a black person, so thank you.
She hopes retracing her steps to where she first encountered the Archbishop will help make sense of her emotions.
That I've carried till today, and I'm not an emotional person at all. I'm so sorry.
A medical student at Oxford, Amy grew up feeling more British than Nigerian in social circles that mostly saw a chaotic, needy Africa.
I think if I have children, I will definitely get them to spend more time in Nigeria than I do.
She was in the audience at the university's debating union when in 1994, Archbishop Tutu addressed them.
At the time, it was just after Nelson Mandela was released, and there was a lot of violence going on in South Africa. And so the audience wanted to know, why everything was going wrong. To an extent, I'd been sucked in by the media portrayal of what was going on in South Africa, and I was also maybe seeing it through, Western eyes and judging a situation wrongly. And his response, I think, was very intelligent, very articulate, but very forceful as well. And I think, with Africa, everything the West perceives is the opposite of all those characteristics. Everything is, we're very emotional and, slightly incompetent and, all these negative things. And here's this man who was in the middle of this struggle, who's basically standing up telling you, no, you're wrong, here's why you're wrong. And the truth is the opposite.
The rediscovery of her roots, which brought her to where she is now as a top Nigerian businesswoman and development expert, began here in Oxford with Tutu.
I think the message to me was a lot of things that you've been told about your country, about your continent, about yourself, about what it is to be black are basically wrong, and not things that you believe about yourself are wrong. He basically told me that I was not this negative thing that I had grown up thinking I was. I think that was really at the heart of it.
So Lagos is a very clean.
It's not. I mean, we still have problems.
Today, as we're leaving Oxford, and you're just knowing, it's almost the end, and you're just thinking, wow, when again in my life I'll get to experience something like that. I really think it's kind of life-changing. You're very humbled. You're like, wow, who am I, to actually get to experience all that. With that, I think a sense of responsibility and thinking how are we going to make this program survive and thrive.
The summer has been complex. The transition in Tunisia made it that you kind of have to revise the way you look at things. It's not going as well as I thought. I used to think that when you have the proper style of leadership, then things will be easier, you know. We're ending the authoritarian styles. We're a new era of young people who kind of know how to do it now. The exercises of the scenarios also make you realize that the best case scenarios are still, even if we're wishful thinker, we're not gonna get there anytime soon.
The biggest question I'm asking myself at the moment is where to from here? You know, we've had this wonderful experience, which we're going to continue to have over the next couple of days. You know, what are we going to do with it?
The City of London, commercial hub of Europe, once the seat of British colonial might in Africa. Now, 5% of Londoners identify themselves as Black Africans, though few of them will ever experience the city as the young leaders are about to. The day's schedule, shrouded in secrecy, Tutu's children catch the tube with London's commuter crowd.
I have no idea what we're going to be doing here, Jules.
They've kept it really quiet. I'm a bit worried. I think it's going to be a sporting type of activity, and I'm not very good at sports, so...
It will be competitive, but it's not sport. Their leadership will be tested in the kitchen, where they'll have to cook an array of authentic African dishes.
They have no idea what's going to happen at all.
South African chef Rosalind Rathaus is supposedly on hand to help them, but she's about to put provocation and sabotage on the menu to examine how they manage people and resources under pressure.
I will try and set quite a serious tone. I'm going to become an authority figure, and I'm going to be quite mean sometimes. When I'm not mean enough, Karen winds me up, but be meaner.
Guys, do not open your packs, please. All the other rules are on the card. I would ask you to read them, please, carefully, so that you know what the rules are when you're in the kitchen. If you adhere to rules, you're okay. This meal has got to be of the highest order. Everything you're doing is of the highest order. I will have the right to veto anything that is substandard and make you do it again. Your cards are in front of you. The task begins now.
First, they'll need to pick groups, decide what to cook, and barter for any ingredients they need. It's supposed to be the easy part.
We'll see what the other groups have to see if we need to negotiate. Can it be typically African style with just these ingredients? What's typical African? No, we need to have some starch, and some guys will need this. I imagine that's what the negotiations are all about.
Is it flour?
How many pieces of chicken do we have? Would we
have like 5?
We've got...
We're cooking for 8.
We have too much chicken.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I really don't like the way we're doing it, because one thing might be there that might inspire me to do a completely different dish. Because we need to do intelligence before deciding what we want to cook.
But we almost have all the ingredients we need. We only need, yeah, exactly. That's why we don't even need to go do intelligence.
Like meat.
We only need tomato and onion and oil. That's it.
Mm-hmm. That team there has a lot of meat.
Okay.
That team there has no meat. But they have a lot of maize. They have maize and they've got...
No, don't come looking. First tell us. No.
You have to knock at our
Talk
door.
nicely.
We will invite you
You
in.
just come here and look inside our box. This is very bad behavior.
This group is so disorganized. Last year, in contrast, what they did was they planned everything. They looked to see how many people should be in each group. They looked to see who the good cooks were. They even looked at the boxers so they could negotiate. All they've done is this year, they've just gone split up. No thought about anyone or anything else. They are negotiating, but it's so haphazard.
We need to plan the menu first, otherwise we don't know what we're going to be trading.
Okay.
We have too many chicken.
What are we going to do?
Discovering the other group has something his doesn't, Tunisian activist Ziad makes it his mission to liberate the chicken.
Look, they have tons of chicken.
Andrews, if they want things.
You could do some chicken with some...
No, but that's 2 meals. Guys, we only have 1 hour.
Yeah, we need the chicken.
Okay, let's go.
I'll give you the chicken for the whole flour, yeah?
Okay, chicken. Bring the chicken. More chicken.
We only have 1 hour. Let's go.
No. So it's fine. We're not interested.
You took it now.
No!
If you don't mind. Thank you. That's more like it. Right. I would like to know, firstly, what each team is going to cook. I told you that I had the right of veto. So if you've dreamt up some rubbish, you're not going to be cooking it. You are doing a meal that is representative of Africa, of the continent.
Somehow, authentic African dishes don't spring to mind.
Okay, we are cooking rice with some coconuts. And we're also going to cook chicken.
What country?
It's very East African.
Very East African. Okay, we'll buy that. I don't want to hear stupid things as we go on during the day about that's what we do in my village. I've heard that in the past. How many of you can cook?
All of us.
She's the head chef.
Yeah?
I don't cook. The meatball stew is coming from Sandro. And the vegetables, I think, is coming from Buntu.
It's a bit of a mess, that, isn't it? How many of you have had disasters in the kitchen?
Pearl barley soup.
And how are you going to make that? A pearl barley soup.
At the moment, we're going to follow the guide on the pack. We don't know it well.
When you boil barley, you don't get a barley soup. You get boiled barley.
Boiled barley.
It's not very interesting, okay? And it's not a dish.
It takes a proposal from Fundi, who happens to work for a mining company, before any of the groups even consider sharing resources.
Excuse me. Can we divide ourselves? Can we regroup ourselves and divide ourselves according to the protein?
Guys, Demiso, come up here. That doesn't help sitting down there. Come up here. Let's make a plan here.
No, we're already organized.
Guys, but if it's organized and we don't achieve the best objective, why don't we put everything on the table and we find the best dishes?
Guys, you're changing it into a communist approach. I don't like it.
Once a group has established itself, it will do everything to keep itself together as a group. So they're willing to leave stranded the needy group, which is typical. So far, no surprises, unfortunately.
Very sort of fat cat sitting there. We're okay, guys. Okay. Have we resolved the chicken issue?
There was no chicken issue. No chicken issue.
They seem to need that much chicken for their meal.
We did not give you the chicken because your offer was much less than the offer from Mark, that group. We spoke with these people, they know.
Food is perishable. If you don't need the food, you donate the food. You don't negotiate.
Already traded.
Let it go.
Like just
let Ziad blow off his steam. He'll be fine.
So if you're ready, let's go.
African takeaways here.
But what makes cooking authentic African dishes impossible for the young leaders is that quite deliberately, they have been given none of the essential ingredients: salt, tomatoes, and that most precious of resources, oil.
So you call him and you say, can I talk to you? And you take him aside. And we want to show them how easy it is to either enter into corruption without realizing it. Someone says, do you want something? And you say yes when you're not supposed to have it, or when you want it, but no one else has got it.
The guy came to me and said, so obviously he's not used to the exercise or something. So he's like, if I give you oil, what do you give me in return? It's like nothing.
One leader from each group is secretly offered a missing ingredient and is told not to tell the others.
I think we just got right.
So, given the chance, will they squander or share precious resources they know others would want?
Okay, I'll take the salt if I can tell my group.
And will anyone stand up to the oppressive chef Rosalind?
Okay, shh. No, you're not making that. Disgusting, yeah? And what else? Just go and do it. Just go and do it.
You go and chop. Go on.
Seriously, no. Actually, no. It's actually under control. Seriously. No. It's under control. No, it's under control.
Is there anyone here that needs help, please? Quiet. No talking at all. The rest of this task is to be done in silence. You know where you're going? Right, silence.
So what are Ndumiso's group to do about the secret salt?
We've got salt.
But it wasn't stolen, right?
I don't know where you got it.
Don't worry, I'm checking. Judy, I'm checking the rules.
How did you get it?
He's part of the staff. He offered me the salt.
So we just have to decide whether we're going to use
He
it.
said I shouldn't tell anybody. So I took the salt and I'm putting it to you now whether, should we use it or not.
Two rules. You're supposed, Judy, you are required to utilize as many ingredients as you require in the boxes provided. And also says the resources to be used in this exercise are wide open and are for you to discover.
If we got the salt, it would be stupid not to use it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm giving you 15 minutes. You are so far behind, just falling apart.
Sorry. The coconuts.
5 minutes to go, guys.
It's all over. Sweet relief for the young leaders.
You're always surprised how you actually behave in these situations, as opposed to how you think or hope you would behave in these situations.
Well, you'd better get on with that, I reckon, very fast.
Okay. It was very evident to me how quickly I became obedient to an authoritarian, and that was something that's quite disconcerting. What surprised me is how quickly corruption became the norm. It spread like wildfire. But the most surprising is I actually had a decent meal. Things tasted pretty good. So out of chaos can come creativity.
But a generous portion of criticism awaits them. Their journey together began 5 months ago and has so far brought some of the young Africans to surprising conclusions about leadership.
We, young African leaders, reject that notion of African leadership.
Now, in the final few days of their course in London, a pressured cookery task has exposed their unwillingness to share resources
I'll take the salt if I can tell my group.
and collaborate for the greater good. Organizational psychologist Dr. Karen Solomon helps them analyze how they reacted.
And even when we were told that it's not supposed to be a competition, we still persisted on competing.
All groups do it. You can stand on your head and say, guys, there's no competition, but groups will do it.
I feel like the people who collaborated more out of need than
The problem for me, and I didn't enjoy this exercise at all, as soon as we eliminated the fact that it was competition, we should have just put stuff on the table. And when we didn't do that, I just thought it became a waste of
They
time.
didn't seem to be organized. Everyone was shouting and screaming. Do I want to disturb my peace, my serenity, and go into the chaos to do something? Or just actually think about us and keep the peace?
Swati stands by her instinct for self-preservation.
I think you need someone to help you with your menu.
You guys need someone to assist you with your menu. What kind of a thing is that? What is she really saying? What were you... You guys are losers.
Everything we had put on the table, people could come and take, and everything we needed was already packed, and we're sitting. And we had said, if you need anything, we're not going to negotiate because we have what we need, and we don't need anything else, but we have this extra, so you can just come and tell us, you know, this is what you need out of there. But we're not going to go back and try to negotiate and change our menu. Our menu was set, our ingredients were there, we're ready to go.
Those given the clandestine ingredients faced a tricky moral dilemma.
It was important for me, for one, the group to be on board. We have received the salt. I've been offered salt by someone from the street. I don't know where they got the salt from. Is the group comfortable with using the salt or not? I did not feel that I'd done anything wrong, but I wanted the group to be comfortable.
There must have been a little part of you that was uncomfortable to raise it.
Well, the reason I was uncomfortable is because I knew that none of the other groups had the salt.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's a terrible dilemma that faces you. You didn't come by anything in a criminal way. You didn't steal it, you're right. You didn't go and ask for it. It was offered to you. So you're actually clean. You said, in case you decide to use it, I'll put it here, and if you don't use it, we'll throw it away. So what were you doing when you said that?
It was important for me that everyone was on board.
Yes. You were saying, guys, I'm not prepared to be responsible for your choice.
I was very happy with the fact that Ziad was always willing to provide us anything we wanted, even if it means stealing it. So he comes to say, what is it that you want? You want that? He said, I can get it.
I have to say, I didn't steal anything. I borrowed something. But I have to say, the other group had 16 pieces of chicken and didn't want to give us a single piece. And the chicken was raw when we ate it at lunch, which shows that they really had too much chicken.
It's also quite useful to delegate the role of the corrupt to someone else. But we'll come to that.
But however he did it, Ziad's one-man mission to rescue wasted resources left the rest of his group at a loss as to how to manage him.
We had already agreed that this was the menu. We didn't need chicken. And it's true that Ziad was he wanted chicken, and it didn't matter if the group we had agreed that we were not going to have chicken. He still went, go and forced it. So I think it's almost also compromising the group. You're a group with integrity, and there is one element who goes to pick something that as a group we didn't agree that we needed, and second, does it in a manner that didn't reflect actually the culture and the attitude of the group.
I suppose the question for you to think about, Ziad, is that what I do? Am I a boundary pusher? Do I sometimes push the boundaries too far? I've got a feeling this is not unknown to you. Right?
Kind of. Yeah.
So living on the edge like that is takes a lot of courage or stupidity or something, but probably that's a place that you know about.
We actually also had no mechanism for reining him back in.
It's important to have mavericks in society, otherwise you don't kind of push those boundaries.
How do we get the most out of our mavericks? That's the leadership question.
Trying to be sometimes very effective, efficient, organized.
Chicken? I need the chicken.
Maybe there needs to be a little bit of chaos and disorganization and so, but to actually implement change. How do I make sure that willingness and drive to execute doesn't actually become an impediment to be a change engine for Africa?
Chicken. I'm described as a maverick, which now makes sense to me, but I never saw it before. So I'm really grateful for this exercise because I felt like I'm one of the ones who benefited the most of it.
With their country's real resources so often plundered and mismanaged, would taking these criticisms on board help them become better stewards?
Today's exercise was quite challenging, and I didn't really hear that much defensiveness. They were pretty comfortable with being uncomfortable, if you know what I mean. They found it disturbing and they were willing to stay with it. And if they can maintain that, that'll be great.
They're no strangers to London, many of them having been here on business before, but the young leaders are about to make their first visits to the 4 corporate sponsors of their leadership course. Funding from Rio Tinto, GlaxoSmithKline, Investec Bank and ASO Savings is what keeps the annual scheme afloat, with mentors and speakers mostly involved as unpaid volunteers.
The other day with
But it's becoming difficult to sustain for the founders, retired businessmen Sean Lance and Peter Wilson.
Both of us have got deep roots in Africa. My roots go back to, on my mother's side, to 1820 settlers. On my father's side, his great-grandparents were missionaries in Africa. We would sit across the table and say, well, when we get to that age when we are thinking of retiring, and what can we do for Africa? Getting Archbishop Tutu involved, I think, was the final point which really brought it together. And it's been a success ever since then. The big problem with a program like this is that you've got to keep the standards up.
But as the young leaders well know, the sponsors represent sectors with muddied histories in Africa: mining, banking, and pharmaceuticals. Sectors criticized for exploiting the continent. So how will the young leaders handle the visit to their benefactors? Arriving at the head offices of mining multinational Rio Tinto, they receive the personal welcome of company chairman Jan du Plessis, himself a South African.
Don't make too much of your own intelligence. Don't make too much of your own knowledge. If you want to be a leader, you are working with people. And never, ever forget that. You cannot lead people unless you understand you're working with people.
Thank you very much for that wonderful talk and for sharing your insights with us. As a leader, how have you handled organizational politics?
The group seems more interested in his leadership story than in scrutinizing the mining industry's track record in Africa. Even Tunisian revolutionary Ziad is unusually subdued.
If we have our project, and then
But moments later, the question of Africa's resource curse is raised for them.
What more can and should we be doing in our own right or with our partners to address the risk of the resource curse?
Only Amy, managing director of Nigeria's new offshore oil and gas facility, insists on knowing how Africa's powerful foreign investors intend to tie profit to development.
The views that we've had from your chairman and yourself has been very refreshing because I deal with a lot of foreign companies in the extractive industry, and it's not usually quite such a pleasant experience, to be honest. So have you considered an option where instead of foreign companies or even local companies that are in your business getting involved in the community, there is an agreement that a certain percentage of net profit, whatever, is set aside to give to people who are in the development field to work on specific projects?
Yeah. Look, it's not about capital. It's not about money, it's not about donations. May I say, I do not think it's not about donations, it's not about welfare, it's not about money. It's about capacity building. With African leadership's help, need to focus on develop the competencies, the capacities, and the institutional competence. Please sit down. I appreciate that.
If you listen to These guys, they're really, really skilled diplomats. They have thought about all the issues. They not uncaring about Africa's agenda. They know what they need to achieve. And often we, as Africans, are so traumatized by our own sense of self-depredation and stuff like that, that we see everyone as a potential enemy.
Working with Rio Tinto on fostering relations with South African communities local to the mines, Fundi has experienced the mistrust of foreign investors firsthand.
With the communities, you come there genuinely to help, but because the traumatic mentality says you want to take away from me, I don't trust you. So it's about building the trust and the confidence. So as young African leaders, we need to be aware of that we cannot always say the West, the East, and be victims.
It's actually what I expected and more. It's actually quite, it's quite encouraging for me to hear that companies are thinking more than just about the bottom line.
Full of diplomatic grace, the leaders seem to leave satisfied with what they've heard. And instead of biting the hand that feeds them, at the very next opportunity, break into groups to brainstorm what they can do to secure the future of the scheme for other people.
We're going to raise money for next year's budget. How much? What are the parameters? These are some of the issues. And then how do we relate to them?
Okay. The question is, have we really exhausted the pool of contacts around the 100-odd fellows?
We do need the communication strategy. How are we going to communicate the brand out there?
From London's glass towers to the corridors of power, Lord David Hacking, a long-time supporter of the leadership scheme, has arranged a private no-cameras tour for the young Africans of the House of Lords. Steeped in tradition and privilege, it's the unelected part of the British government responsible for guiding the laws of the land.
I'm not really one that's always had much patience for traditions and all of these sorts of things. But I've got some respect for that today. When you come into this place, you've got all these little funny rules and you even change the way you speak. Right? You have to give away some of yourself, right? And say, I'm now not Mema Bay or Mark Van Olst, I'm now in the House of Lords and I'm representing a certain constituency. I'm leaving myself behind and I'm coming into this place.
Across tables lords and baronesses have dined at for generations, the young leaders get a taste of life for the upper crust and ponder the pros and cons of aristocracy.
The thing that really struck me, and it struck me before, about the British system is the sense of duty, and it's maintained by the grandeur of the buildings.
And we don't have anything like that in South Africa. What a benefit it would have for the country if you could have a forum where people like Archbishop Tutu, Nelson Mandela.
So I certainly don't think you should be there just because you're wealthy or because of who your mother or father is. I think you have to meet a standard, and if you meet that standard, then you have so much to give to society. Our elders have behaved in ways which has made it difficult for us to respect them. And maybe if we had a system that you could select, the most competent members of that strata of society, and you could put them into a body like the House of Lords, maybe that would be a way of getting the respect back.
But do they recognize themselves as an elite?
What we took away from the House of Lords was not, oh, how wonderful it is to be an aristocrat in the UK. It's how can we get ourselves and our friends and those leading our countries to feel a sense of responsibility for each other, to the citizenry. I don't think there's any chance of our group becoming elitist.
Yeah, talking about love, the camera showed up. We are definitely an elite group, let's put it that way. We are not representative of the level of education that exists in the continent, the amount of suffering that's happening in the continent. We are an elite that came from the people. We did not have a privileged upbringing. We are also a group of people who cares about everyone else. I'm not afraid of saying that we are an elite.
You become elite because you earn it. Let's be the voice of people who are powerless. It's not a right. It's not an entitlement. It's a gift. Wherever that gift came from, it had a little tag attached to it. And it said, you are now responsible. Congratulations, here's your gift.
After 6 months, 41 training sessions, and several emotional crises, the journey to official graduation as Archbishop Tutu Fellows is almost over. And though there are no guarantees they'll lead by their principles or deliver on their promises, along the way, many have gained new insights as leaders and as people.
I always had a feeling that I need to be part of the change of Africa. I'm hiring only women, but I think being part of the Tutu Fellowship is really, I have no other choice than to be part of that change.
If I were to look for a boss amongst everybody here, I think you should be the best boss.
I feel anointed, entrusted, accountable at the end of that.
Tycoon, a chicken tycoon. What I want to achieve now is to build up the entrepreneurial capacity of the continent. It was that moment of realizing that you have to be able to play different roles as a leader. You can't entrench yourself purely in your preferences. That was a very powerful process for me.
Africa takeaways, yeah?
I felt that the difference between being white and black was way less than the difference between being Kenyan or Nigerian or by being South African or Ugandan, whatever it may be. So it's really become an irrelevant aspect.
There are times when we have to be brutally honest with each other.
I don't actually have to forgive in order to move on.
The power relations throughout the world are actually changing.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, how are you?
What I would like to achieve, obviously, will probably start off in my country.
The world does not owe you anything.
I hope at some point I'll be able to play a role in, advising, be it in government, be it in business, across borders, to sort of try and bring some commonality to the way we do things. The world needs us, and the world does not actually need us to come to the table to whinge and moan about the past. We need to decide as a continent what is going to be our contribution.
The biggest turning point for me was the day where we went to the kitchen school and we tried to cook that meal together.
I suppose the question for you to think about, Ziad, is, am I a boundary pusher?
It's important to have Mavericks in society.
We are where we are because of this kind of dictatorship. The fact that I'm aware of it is going to help me so much in the future. I think it will impact my leadership in many ways.
We're talking about African leaders.
Yeah, I was hoping basically to join a family. But what happened was much more than that.
Welcome to the World Bank.
You see Africa not as a continent or as a picture on the map or as a footage you see on TV, but you see the human story behind it. You identify to them, you identify to their upbringing, and basically this makes Africa like home.
This group is no better than hundreds, probably thousands of other people out there. I do think the world has a responsibility to start recognizing Africa in a different way. Hopefully this will help.
The Lord can lie in the front like I think the ladies will hold the Lord.
We really thank you for your dedication to this program, for believing in this group of young higher achievers and aggressive bunch, and for giving us your ear and your attention. So we really, really want to thank you for being here with us and for sharing these moments. Thank you.
This has been a wonderful 5 months, 6 months working with you. I assure you this group was a pleasure to work with. It's been absolutely fantastic.
We haven't finished yet.
Dove sono? Pretendo.
I feel like we're all one big family, and I think we should continue.
I would like to now propose a toast to the graduation of the Archbishop Tutu Fellows 2012. Congratulations.
Prime Minister.
So, if we come across Tutu's children over the coming months and years, what should we expect to see?
The baton has been passed on. It's time for us to start running.
It's your interaction with people every day. That's what makes you a leader.
To use my influence through the media to inspire people.
So it's less of a selfish mark.
Less me, more others.
To further involve myself community development rather than starting something immensely ambitious.
Education, environment, development of youth and sports.
Expand my real estate business to a regional and then continental level, adhering to the highest level of integrity.
A lot of people see me as a role model. I think it's very important that I'm conscious of that.
To convince the young people that they can be part of the change of the country.
To help get many young Malawians to get highly educated.
Responsibilities.
Responsibility.
Huge responsibility. I feel like an African soldier and collectively with my peers to assist our continent.
I've realized the importance of family. I'm striking the balance between personal life and professional lives.
It's okay to want the best for your people and to question things.
I've learned is that I have innate ability for negotiation.
To create jobs throughout West Africa and to negotiate with the international community on an equal basis.
To be a bigger voice for Africa in this global world.
So far, I've been fairly successful at an individual level. This program has challenged me to think beyond myself. That's it, eh? Done.
That's it.
Thank you.